Why does the United States pay higher drug prices than other countries? Because America's the only country in the world where 340B hospitals mark up drug prices and PBM middlemen charge billions in hidden fees. Meanwhile, Americans subsidize the research and development for new cures. Other countries benefit, but don't pay their fair share. Crack down on the middlemen. End the free riding. Lower drug prices. Go to balancethescales.org to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
You may get a little excited when you shop at Burlington.
What a low price! You see that? They have my favorite brand! It's like a whole new Burlington! I can buy two!
I'm saving so much!
Burlington saves you up to 60% off other retailers' prices every day. Will it be the low prices or the great brands? Burlington. Deals? Brands? Wow! I told you so. Styles and selections vary by store.
People are just generally weird, and maybe I give off like a weird vibe. I don't know, but I feel like I find a lot of weird people. We sort of gravitate toward each other.
Hey Beat Check listeners, I'm Destiny Johnson, social media producer with The Oregonian. The Oregonian is, as you probably know, Oregon's largest newspaper. Reporters have been gumshoeing across the state for the O, bringing news to the people since 1850. And I do mean all over the state. While the Portland metro area gets intense coverage from politics to public safety, it's the small town stories that remind us of all the cool things Oregon has to offer outside of the city. And for a taste of that good small population hometown hug, I can think of few other reporters to chat with than Samantha Swindler. Sam produces content, and I mean all the content, articles, photos, videos, podcasts, you name it, for OregonLive.com and the newspaper, as well as our sister site, Here is Oregon, which, by the way, is where we publish all of Oregon's good news. All that stuff you're always yelling at us in the comments to write about. It's there for you, I promise. Sam has this incredible knack for finding hidden gems. Welcome to Beat Check, Sam, and I'm very excited to chat with you today. But right off the top, I want to know about one of your favorite hidden gems that you found here in Oregon.
Ooh, that's really hard. Let's see. Okay. Last year, I think I went to Elkton. Have you heard of Elkton, Oregon?
Of course I haven't.
Oh, yeah. Elkton is amazing. It is this teeny tiny little town. It has like 200 people, and there's like 5 wineries there and a whole bunch of vineyards. And it was delightful. I rented a yurt and stayed on a vineyard, and there was absolutely nobody there, and there was no cell service, and it was gorgeous. And there's just like a record player in the yurt and wine, and it was delightful. And there's like one restaurant in Elkton, and it's great. And so I went there for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, basically. You probably want to know where Elkton is. It's in Douglas County. So it is, if you're going from like Eugene to the coast, it is on that road.
Okay, that makes sense to me. That's putting it in simple terms for someone like me, which I appreciate. You don't just report on small town stuff. You do all sorts of stuff. She's our resident ring finder. You got a lost ring, you need to find the owner. Sam's got quite the record. She works on all sorts of weird stories, true crime stories, big stories about crows that shock and verbally abuse elementary school children. But what is it about small town reporting that you love so much?
Let's see. There's a couple of things. One is that I really like having conversations with people who are not media trained. You know, if you ever have to interview politicians or big corporate CEOs or anybody like that, there's sort of this veneer to the conversation. Like it never feels really authentic, I guess. And so I like just having conversations with people who maybe have never talked to a reporter before. I think that's really fun and interesting. And you can get a lot of that in small towns. You can get that in Portland too, but you can just talk to any random person in a town of 50 people and find a story and come away with something really interesting. And the other thing is that I think it's really important to remember that Oregon is a lot more than Portland. It's a really big state. It's a really diverse state. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on in other parts of the state that look nothing like what happens in Portland. And if we want to envision ourselves as Oregonians and all of us together, you know, as one collective, it's important that we cover these other people and recognize these other people and talk to other people and get to know and understand other people. And you can do that through feature stories, I think.
I was going to say a lot of the work that you do, it would be considered features. And for anybody who isn't in the know, that just sort of means it's not hard news. It means that it's not something that came from a policeman's mouth or a politician's mouth or any other first responder. It sort of can be evergreen, meaning it can, go on and be a story forever. Or sometimes it's just about like an event or something. It's a little more on the lighthearted side typically, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with like real responsibility. You talked about how reaching to these far corners of our state is sort of representative of who we are totally as Oregonians. But I think more than that, bringing it to the people. So the people in Portland can see the other Oregonians. Like, do you feel like a great sense of accomplishment, I guess, when you go out to these places where nobody else is going and like, no, you know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about that?
This is really hokey and cheesy, but I do kind of feel like a missionary. Like I'm going out and I feel like I am trying to represent not just the Oregonian, but I feel like I'm trying to represent the concept of journalism because that is having a rough time these days. And I think there are a lot of preconceived notions that people have about Portland and the media, however you define that word. And so I try to just talk to people and have them see that I'm a real person and I do go out and this is what real reporting looks like and talking to people and tell their stories accurately. And, I think for the most part, people are generally pretty happy with what comes out of it. But I hope that it builds a small relationship with people and their newspaper, and then also people who are readers in the Portland metro area to other parts of the state that maybe they haven't been to. It's like a little bridge building thing. It is a very small, tiny little piece of that. That is how I tell myself that I'm trying to do like one small piece of good in the world. Because it can feel weird when there is a lot of chaos in the world politically and just all kinds of ways. Environmentally, there's a lot of general anxiety in the vibe, I guess, right now in the world. And so to be the person who just writes the fun little fluffy stories, it feels, I don't know, sometimes you feel like, what am I even doing here? But I do think it's really important to remind people that there is joy in the world. And if that is my small contribution to things, then I'll take it.
Yeah, I think you said it. My vibe right now is general anxiety, actually. General anxiety, reporting for duty. I think that's great, though. I think that it's important to zoom out. And I think that's a lot of what journalism does. It helps other people be able to zoom out and see the community that they live in even larger ways than they could maybe conceptualize. And I do think that it's important. So I, as your coworker, appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you.
Small town reporting, though, you want to talk about your background in journalism a little bit? You come from some small town reporting, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, before I worked at the Oregonian, I worked at the Tillamook Headline Herald. Shout out to the Oregon coast. And then before that, I was in rural East Kentucky and then also rural East Texas. And these are small communities where everybody knows everybody else. And I think that informs the way that I go about my reporting. Sometimes you talk to you work with a lot of interns and young brand new reporters, people who don't even have any actual journalism degree or training in a lot of these papers. And so something that I often tell people is that never write something that you wouldn't say to somebody's face. That's sort of like my core value as a reporter. That does not mean that I will not write something that is critical or controversial if I believe it, but it's something that I would say to their face, because when you work in a small paper, you will see that person and they will ask you about it and you will have to explain yourself to their face. And I think so many online trolls and all of that kind of really toxic internet culture is because people are not used to talking to people face to face. So that's the main thing that I live by.
I think that's great. And I think that tenet holds real. I'm also from kind of a small town in the South. And I think that tenet really does hold true in the South because, you're going to have to be 10 toes down in the Publix if you say something, like in the parking lot of the grocery store, if you say something out of pocket. So I think moving up to a bigger paper like the O, or just a bigger news institution, bringing those, like, I hate to say small town as if it's derogatory, but that ethos, it's a little different. And I think it shows a lot in your reporting, and also in the way that you're able to communicate community. I think what I enjoy reading a lot about your stories is often it's like shows how strong the community is in these small places. These people living their lives that, I don't know, I, as somebody who sits in Portland, I don't know, I don't think about what somebody on the coast is doing. And so I really appreciate that. Do you think the small towns are weirder than Portland?
I think they're as weird as Portland. I think people are just generally weird, and maybe I give off like a weird vibe. I don't know, but I feel like I find a lot of weird people. We sort of gravitate toward each other. I have found some really weird people, particularly like on the Oregon coast. I don't know why. I think I have this kind of really unscientific theory that people who are kind of wanderers through life and sort of kind of the oddballs, they just keep going west, and then you at some point you can't go any further west, and then you end up in like knee tarts, and then like there's some wacky characters who live on the Oregon coast, and I absolutely love it.
It's the Kerouac theory, right? Just go west until you can't. Yeah. Is there somewhere in Oregon that is on your I gotta visit list, but you haven't been able to make it out there yet?
Funny you should ask. So I have been wanting to do this for like a couple of years, but I'm finally going to do it this summer. I want to go to the 5 smallest cities in Oregon, like actual, like a city government, a municipality. So these are technically cities, because that's the form of government that they have, but they are towns that have less than like 30 people who live in all of them. Some of them I had not even heard of. They are, if you were curious, coming in at number 5, Antelope, which many people might remember from its stint as, was it Rashnishipuram, I believe is what they renamed the town for a little second there.
It had a cult in it, in case you guys didn't know. It had a cult in it.
Yeah, it's a little cult town. They're kind of trying to rebrand. I totally understand that. It's a very cute little town. They have their dark sky community now. So Antelope has a population of about 35 people.
Wow.
Granite, which is in Eastern Oregon, I don't know anything about it yet. Lone Rock, which is somewhere in the middle, about 25 people live there. Shaniko is, you asked me what my favorite place is. I love Shaniko. Shaniko has like 20 people who live there, and I think I've met every single one of them, and they're all delightful. You could do a reality TV show about life in Shaniko. It's amazing. It's close to Antelope, actually. And then the smallest city is Greenhorn, which is in Eastern Oregon. It's like maybe an hour and a half west of Baker City.
Okay.
And the technical population of the town is 0 people because nobody lives there permanently. So according to the census, like there are no residents. Okay, this is this interesting little tangent that I find fascinating because I'm a huge nerd. Because they don't have any permanent residents, they don't have a voting population. And so how do you have a city council if you don't have any voters? Well, the county, Baker County, appoints 2 people to the city council. And then I think those 2 people appoint like 3 more people. And then all of those people vote amongst themselves and they pick the mayor. And that's how they run their city.
Is Greenhorn, Oregon secretly an MLM? Just a large scheme MLM? Because that's what it's not. It's not. That is a joke. But that's what that's that government like scheme is kind of what it sounds like. But that is, I would have never guessed that there was more than one town that had a population like under 100 somewhere here in Oregon. You know what I mean? Because it seems unfathomable. That's crazy.
I'm like, I told my editor, I was like, I want to go to these 5 cities. She's like, what are you going to write about? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, how many people are there? I'll find them. I'll figure it out. Just trust me. I'm just going to go out there, with like a large Mountain Dew and my cell phone, and I'll come back with some content and it'll be cool, I think. It
Yeah, I
usually is.
believe.
It's worked out so far.
I believe that, yeah. And if you're interested in Shaniko, actually, Sam's already done some really cool stories and a cool video about the people of Shaniko, and it was based on their fire department. Is that true?
Yeah.
You did
The fire department reopened the only hotel in town, and that's how they make money, because there's like no tax base. They don't have any taxes, but they do have fires. And so they manage the hotel, and that is what funds the fire department. I think that's super fascinating.
Y'all wouldn't believe some of like, I mean, Sammy mentioned like some of the weird government structures of these places, but just like there is nothing better nourishing to the soul, and I know that Sam and I both agree on this, than small town gossip, y'all. It doesn't matter, big or small, I don't care. But it feels like everything that you bring back from these stories is some kind of small town gossip. I feel like this is like something that I wouldn't normally be in because I'm all the way out here in Portland, and now I get to spill the tea with these people, which is really, really fun. So I'm really looking forward to that and all the stuff that you create from that. It's very exciting.
That's as I've said many times, I think my favorite genre of story is high drama, low stakes. I will write that story all the time. And there's so many good high drama, low stakes stories in a small town. So many things are low stakes. But when you're in a small town and you know everybody, there are just so many interesting personality quirks and things that you can get when you talk to different people. I love it. And we are both from the South. And so we kind of know, I think, small towns and sort of that, I don't know, Southern level of gossip. Maybe that's something that you get when you grow up there. I don't know, like the love of gossip. But
maybe.
I always, I grew up in Texas. I always thought Texas was like the West, because they just tell you that.
It's
I think
funny.
when you're in, Cowboys.
Sure.
But man, like it is more the West here. It's so much more rural. It's so much more isolating.
Definitely.
I'm fascinated by that idea that you can just have this tiny, a town. I lived in towns of a couple of thousand people.
Yeah.
25 people. That's fascinating to me.
It's like having 25
I don't think we
roommates.
need that many people. I could happily live in a town of a couple thousand people. What do you need? I need one nice coffee shop, one local bar, and a good Thai restaurant, and I could live anywhere. Everything else is just extra.
I do love that for you. I will speak on behalf of all chronically ill girlies and say I do need a hospital and a doctor to be within a distance from me. But I respect the romanticness of it, and you can only get that out in rural Oregon. And if you want to read more stories about rural Oregon, you should go to Heroes Oregon or Oregon Live, where you can find all of Samantha Swindler's stories to date. I'll make sure that is in the link, her little author bio, and you can see her nice little author photo that we all have to take. And also all the stories that she's written to date, including many of those finding cool ring stories. We recently worked on a story together. I took some photos for you of a guy who's trying to sell a book that his serial killer father made in prison for him as a baby. I mean, like, the breadth of stories that Sam covers is truly incredible, and I cannot suggest more that you check it out. Anything else coming up that the people should look forward to?
I will very briefly mention that my current obsession is the Lloyd Center Mall. That is the coolest thing that's happening in Portland right now. I'm telling you, it's the hottest new place. I think in the same way that I love small towns, because I kind of love this community aspect, there is like this community that has built up in the Lloyd Center after all the anchor, department stores have gone, and it's in this sort of transitory phase where they're saying they're going to redevelopment, but there really isn't any timeline for all of it getting knocked down or any of that happening. So the rent is super cheap. So it's become an incubator for startups and small businesses and locally owned businesses and like artsy fartsy things and like weird experimental theater. And like, I don't know if you've been in Lloyd Center lately, but there's like a magic shop and a magic theater. There's a pinball museum. You can learn how to roller skate. Obviously, you can still ice skate. There's a lightsaber store where you can buy lightsabers and then also take lightsaber ring classes, like learn to fight with them. There's all kinds of weird stuff. One of the last times I went to the Lloyd Center, I went to see a Sam Beckett play at the abandoned Victoria's Secret.
That's very Portland. And right before this, we started recording, Sam and I were talking about, I'm like very staunchly bring malls back. Malls are a safe place for, dirtbag teenagers, speaking as a former dirtbag teenager, to wander around and be safe. And I think the Lloyd Center is super cool. One of the coolest comic book shops. We have so many cool comic book shops in Portland, but one of the coolest ones is in the Lloyd Center. And they were an early adopter because Jason, who owns Floating World Comics, which is in the Lloyd Center, is friends with the person who owns the vinyl shop, who was like one of the very first people in there, and was trying to get all of their cool friends to come to the Lloyd Center. So yeah, if you haven't been to the Lloyd Center recently, you should go. It is super cool.
It's super cool and super weird.
Yeah.
I love the weird, quirky. It's like a bunch of nonprofits. There's a secondhand pet shop, like pet supplies. What a genius idea, by the way.
Secondhand pet shop makes it sound like something else. Like people are just like, I don't want my 18-year-old cat anymore. I was trying to explain to my grandpa about the slee stack the other day. The Lloyd Center is giving big Portland energy right now. I think that's very true.
It is the most Portland thing that's happening, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. I want to thank Sam so much for being here with us today on Beat Check. And if you want to keep up with all of Sam's really cool stories, if you want to read about hidden gems around Oregon that you may have never even heard of, you should head on over to OregonLive.com or our sister site, Here is Oregon, where we write about all sorts of Oregon good news. Thanks so much for listening to Beat Check with the Oregonian. If you like this show, give us a 5-star rating and a review in Apple Podcasts. It really helps people find the show. And tell a friend. Help spread the word. The best way to support our journalism and stories like this one is with a subscription to the Oregonian/Oregon Live. You can do that at OregonLive.com/pod support. Until next time.